I took off 2 days and a weekend for a very difficult childbirth and then went right back to work. I would never recommend that. Don't do what I did there.
Today's guest went from a super small town in South Carolina to being the CEO and co-owner of a company with over $3 billion in sales and over 800,000 users.
He scheduled a meeting in a restaurant and a hotel and asked me for a sexual favor in exchange for my paycheck. Me being who I am in the world, I threw my water in his face and stormed out.
You have to be very careful about how you spend your energy because it's a finite resource. Every single day that gets replenished. So that is something that I can control.
I climbed the ladder fast. So every year I took 3 months off to dance with the Rockette, and every year I came back to a promotion.
Sorry?
But let me tell you how I won so fast.
Okay.
Because I think this is important for people who run companies or want to lead teams to know.
She's also a Wall Street Journal bestselling author, a 4 times Inc. 5000 winner, and an international speaker. She did all of this using only a few principles that we can all apply.
If other people similar to yourself, they want to follow in your footsteps, what advice would you give them?
Well,
Meet Laura Casselman.
Where I wanted to start with today is a little bit about you, because of course we've heard a lot of these wins. We've heard a lot of these things that you've done, amazing things that you've done. And for example, we met outside in Mexico when we were at the Next Level Speaking Conference, which was amazing, by the way. And when we were there, you also won an award.
oh yes.
And it seems like you have this consistent habit of winning. My question to you is, where did that come from? Because there's going to be a lot of people that listen to this who are, I guess, at a point where I've been, and I'm sure that you've been at a point where you may feel a little bit lost. You may feel a little bit like, okay, how am I going to get to this lofty goal that I set for myself? So my question to you is like, where did you start? Where did you start? Where was that point where you started at?
Yeah, so at 3 years old, I declared my first big thing in life. That wasn't going to actually come to fruition until I was 25.
Wow.
But every decision I made after that was a stepping stone to get me to that goal. And what I learned when I accomplished it at 25 was that I was fully capable of doing anything I wanted to do. And so ever since then, and really my whole life since I was 3, I've accomplished every single goal that I've set for myself. I create winning cycles. I get momentum behind my wins, and I keep going. And I think the biggest thing to understand is that winning cycles aren't created without failure. I fell over and over again, but I do not get discouraged.
Yeah.
Okay, sometimes I do, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Sometimes I throw a little teeny tantrum, not in public. Only, my closest people see it, and then I get back to work.
Yeah.
Because the only person that's going to stop me is me.
Take us back to 3 years old you. 3-year-old Laura, because you even saying 3 years old, that you had a dream for when you were 3 years old, is difficult for me to understand. Because personally, I don't even remember. I think my memory goes back to when I was in year 7, which is like when I was like 12 years old. Right? So even before then, I remember little tidbits, little bits here and there, but I don't remember it in such clear detail as you did. Take us back to there, and why is it so imprinted in your mind, this 3-year-old period of time?
So I grew up in a small one-stoplight town in South Carolina in the United States, and we didn't have a lot of things. We had one gas station, and I could barter there, by the way. I didn't always pay gas when I was a teenager and stop my car. I would just say, put it on my dad's tab, and then,
Right.
Stuff like that. I didn't always pay for the things that I needed. It would just all come out in the wash of the community.
Wow.
But
Wait, how many people were in this town?
ooh, that's a great question. I don't even know the population of the town. I know I graduated with 17 people.
Wow.
So small.
Small, yeah.
Super small.
Super small.
I laugh. I'm like, one stoplight wasn't for the cars, it was for the tractors. But I had 3 television channels, and I saw the Radio City Rockettes perform, and I declared on that day I was going to be a Rockette. It just spoke to me. It was New York City on the television. It was the Rockettes. It was these glamorous women in glamorous costumes. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to do that.
And break down to me, what is a Rockette? Because you've broken it down to me off screen, because I wasn't too clued up, but please, for me and for the viewers.
So the Radio City Rockettes, who perform at Radio City Music Hall on 6th Avenue in New York, they are the most prestigious dance contract in the world. They're precision dancers, kickline girls. In the UK, you guys had the Tiller Girls that later came about that were similar to the Rockettes.
Okay.
But we are a legacy. I mean, at one point in time, the government even stepped in to save the Rockettes because it's such a hallmark of the country.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you saw that at 3 years old, and you said, I want to be that.
I want to be that.
Did you say I'm going to be that, or I want to?
No, I said I'm going to.
What made you have that resolve, that I guess tenacity to be able to see that through until you're 25? Because you said you had this dream when you were 3 and you saw it through until you're 25. Some people have a dream and they won't see it through until the next day.
Which is silly. If you really want something, then you have to properly plan for it, and then you have to put in the work. And my parents are very clear to me that I could do anything in life that I wanted to if I was willing to put in the work. So they never withheld that information from me. And I was from a super small town. My resources were limited, but I started dance class. By the time I was in the 4th grade, so it would have been around, 11, 12 years old, I joined a performing group. I performed every single weekend, no matter where. I mean, it could have been on the back of a tractor trailer bed with 10 people watching. We were performing. I just got into the habit of it. And also I had a great dance teacher who said, if you're not prepared, you forget one piece of your costume, you can't go on. She made every show like it was professional.
Okay.
And so I learned responsibility very early. I learned if it matters and if you want to do it, then you show up on every account. There is no such thing as not making your list, not checking it, not being prepared.
If you're liking this podcast so far, make sure that you click subscribe and you click like so that you're aware when we do post again, and so that the message spreads out to other people like yourself. Look, we're trying to bless the world. We're trying to help people find their vitamin U. Help them do it too. Enjoy the rest of the episode. Speak soon.
One thing that I'm hearing quite a bit from what you're saying is environment.
Environment and discipline.
Environment and discipline. Would you say that your environment built your discipline?
Yes, but I would say also my desire to accomplish what I wanted built my discipline. You see so many people win at chance, right? Chance will come along once in a while for all of us, but not repeatedly. So if you want to keep accomplishing things and you want to keep winning in life, it's going to take discipline and work and effort, conscious effort.
And preparation.
Yes.
Because with this, all of those things coming together, I guess, makes preparation, right?
Yes.
And when it comes to these opportunities, as you say, they always come by in life, but it's what you do with these opportunities.
Yes.
And one thing I like to say all the time is that God just keeps giving me alley-oops.
Yes.
So, in basketball where they'll throw it up and then someone can dunk it in, I can dunk, by the way, I just want to let you know, on a shorter in. But God will just keep giving me alley-oops, but it's up to me. And what do I want to do with this alley-oop? What do I want to do with this opportunity? And for the footballers, that's a through ball. Okay, God will give me through balls and be able to put it into the goal. And how do you prepare for those alley-oops and those through balls in your life, those opportunities? How do you prepare for them? And how did you prepare when you were younger as well?
So, I mean, I'm always planning and reverse engineering. From the goal that I set, I reverse engineer all the way down to what do I need to do today. Okay. And every day I have a list of what I have to do in order to move the needle closer to my goals. And the thing is, and we say this in jest, the time's going to pass anyway. But it truly is. And we're either going to move closer towards the things that we want in life and actually know, do those things fulfill us or not? Or are we going to sit and wonder, what if? I can tell you with 100% certainty, I will never be on my deathbed and wonder what if. I will definitely and do say, well, that wasn't all it was cracked up to be. I have learned repeatedly what I thought was going to be so amazing was actually not, but I don't wonder anymore. I checked it off my list. I put a feather in my cap, Wall Street Journal bestseller. Yeah. The whole book publishing thing for me was not as fulfilling as it is for other people, but that's okay. I now know the big plans I have for book 2, way on the back burner. I won't say never. That'll come to bite me if I say never, but it's all a learning process. And how do I now apply what I've learned towards the next goal in life and the next thing that I want?
That's good. And with these things that you're looking to get and looking to acquire, goals and such, how do you go about achieving them? Because it's something that you said off camera that I can't remember, it might have been me or it might have been Nisa, someone that said this, right? That they kind of like highlighted that you said this. I've forgotten what you said.
It must have not been important.
It was important. It was important, but you said, that's it. You have accomplished every goal that you set for yourself.
Yes.
What a track record.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Because I started very young saying, here's the goal.
Yeah.
Now, what do I need to do to reach the goal? And to this day, what I do is I set my yearly goal, my big goal. I think in high school, they would always say, where do you see yourself in 10 years? I don't know. I don't know, in 10 years. 5 years is more realistic. 3, we're getting closer. In a year, I can tell you where I see myself, right? I don't want it to be easy. I don't want to say I see myself just slightly better than where I am. I want to work for it because I want it to be like, you know, Jonathan, I don't care if you're wowed by my life. I want to be wowed by my life. I want to say, wow, look what I did. Why else am I living it, right? What is my purpose? I want to know that I did something that was super cool and I wasn't bored by my life. Because if you're bored, that's your own fault, right? This world is at our fingertips now. If you're bored, if you're listening to this and you're bored, then do something that wows yourself. But that's how I've always been. So I set these lofty goals. I always go with a year because that seems like, man, this is going to be really hard. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but the best way is to make a thorough plan. Then I break down my year into quarters, and I set anywhere from 10 to 15 milestones that have to be hit each quarter. 10 to 15 instead of 12 weeks in a quarter. Why? Because sometimes we've got to plan for rest and we've got to plan for holidays. We know we're going to take it off. We know we're going to, like, I'm going to take Christmas off. So I plan during that quarter that I'm going to take less time working towards something and more time being with family and friends.
Right.
That's going to be a 10 milestoner. Then I've got to pick up the pace somewhere else, or I'm hitting a lofty milestone. So I need those 15. Then I break down my quarters after I've got those milestones into months. Now I do this like on hyperdrive with my teams, but I break it down into months, I break it down into weeks, and then it's daily goals. And every day I am doing 3 things minimum, 3 things that are moving me closer to my goals every single day. I don't care if I'm sick. I don't care if life threw a curveball. Like yesterday, I was stuck in an airport for 14 hours. That doesn't prevent me from moving the needle closer to my goals.
You said 3 actionable things that you do every single day. And I'm assuming they change sometimes.
Every day they change.
Every day they change.
Yes.
My to-do list keeps getting longer.
Yeah, okay, those are tasks. Your to-do list is full of tasks. You got to return an email. You need to call this person. You need to set up for this podcast. Task. What's moving you closer to your goals? Those are the 3 needle movers you've got to decide for every single day and make sure that you're doing those things. Or else by the end of the year, you've completed 365 million tasks, but you're not closer to your goals.
So they're not needle moving activities.
Yes, you have to differentiate the tasks. The tasks you get done later. The task you can say, I didn't check off all these tasks today. I'll get to them tomorrow before the end of the week. Your 3 things that move the needle, you can never say tomorrow.
So would you say that these 3 things that you're doing every single day are your small 1%? Because in your book, you speak about, consistent small steps. Are these those small steps, or are there additional things that you're doing?
No, they're my 3 small steps every day. And that's the thing. That's why I'm never overwhelmed by the task at hand. 1, I always write out what I need to do tomorrow, today. Because now it's fresh in my head. I know where I am today. I don't want to come in and start tomorrow thinking, okay, where do I start?
Wait, so you always do what tomorrow, today?
I write out what I need to do tomorrow before I finish today.
Yeah, similar to me.
Yeah, because if I don't, then I'm wasting time in the morning, and you don't know what's going to happen. Like, I like to use children as my reference because I'm a mom now, and I like to say, you don't know if your toddler's going to throw their body on the floor in a tantrum before you walk out the door, and you just got to wait it out. You don't know if there's going to be traffic on the road. You don't know if you're going to be stuck in the tube. You don't know what's going to happen in your morning. But when you get ready to get started at your work, you don't have to think about it. You don't want to waste that brain energy putting thought into what comes next. You want to sit down and just kind of check off the list. And do the difficult things first, because well, everywhere on social media now, you'll see, stop taking cheap dopamine hits. And I agree with the ones that are bad for you. I will take a cheap dopamine hit that's good for me all day long.
Like what?
Checking off something on my list. The physical act of checking off something on my list.
Would you say that's cheap?
Yeah.
Would you say that's cheap?
Yeah, it's an easy win. But it's a fast hit of dopamine that's going to fuel me to do the next thing. And so that's a good cheap dopamine hit.
Okay.
Take them all day long. And the reason I address it that way is because social media now is full of people saying, stop patting yourself on your back for your small wins. That's awful advice. If you're watching someone that tells you that, and I can tell you, like, there are some people with millions of followers right now that you'll see this every single week for them. Unfollow. And And because they don't want to see you win, they want you to stay just beneath them, so you keep giving them money for their next course. It sells. And I don't fault them for sales, but I will fault you for listening if you've now heard this. Honestly.
And I think that unfollow button is such a pretty button.
Oh my gosh.
I love it. It's so attractive.
Yes, and I've had to remind myself recently. I've been watching someone that's quite famous take material from my book and plagiarize me in her videos all day long. And I actually addressed it with her, in which case she just...
In private?
Yeah, privately. And she just denied, and then did, some great one-liners from my book after that.
How did that make you feel?
At first it made me mad, and then I had to laugh at myself because Simon was like, "Why are you following her?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, take your own advice."
At the same time?
Yeah, because I was like, "Watch her, tomorrow she'll copy me again." And then I had to laugh because how silly and how wasteful of my energy. That is energy that's not being used to accomplish my goals in life. That's energy being used to watch someone else win with my material. When ultimately, what do I want? People to win with my material. Keep stealing it. Steal it, regurgitate it all day long. I'm going to unfollow you because it's a trigger for me.
Yeah. That is a very good way to look at it. That's I'll say a very mature way to look at it.
Well, I had to be reminded by Simon. He had to remind me of my own words sometimes. I'm human, I'm not perfect. But yes, stop being mad and jealous of other people. She's got more followers than me, but it's still my material she's using. And what do I want? My material to reach as many people as possible. Win. Pat myself on the back, cheap dopamine hit, take it, unfollow. Ooh, another dopamine hit. Great. Love it.
I think those reframes are so important. And with the energy as well, what you were saying about the energy is so interesting, because I was speaking to someone about this recently, how you only have a certain amount of energy every single day. So even with myself, I always say to myself, don't go to bed without planning the day ahead.
Yes.
So I make sure that I always plan the day ahead on this, my Kindle Scribe. We're not sponsored yet, we will be. I always make sure that I plan the day ahead on this, so that when I wake up, I'm out of bed. And I'm ready to get going, because I've realized, and I kind of split test my days. So I see what works for this, what works on these days and what doesn't work.
Yeah.
So when I go on a walk the night before, does that have an effect on the day that's ahead? When I make sure that I plan my day ahead, does it have an effect? Yes, I get out of bed much quicker. I know I've got stuff to do. I know I have to hit this, I need to hit that. I need to go to the gym in the evening as well, meaning I need to do this stuff beforehand. And it all falls into place. And this even ties into energy as well, and how much energy you have. You have to be very careful about how you spend your energy.
Yes.
And I say spend because it's a finite resource.
That's right.
It's a finite resource every single day that gets replenished. So how I spend my energy is very important to me. And then you even unfollowing, or me even unfollowing somebody, is, I think, a wise use of your energy and spending it. Because there are so many people that we're following, and we don't even realize sometimes that we're following, but they are having a negative effect on us. And I'm a very big proponent of seeing people win. I love to see people win, and a lot of my people are winning. But sometimes I have to come off of social media.
Yes.
Because as a human who feels things, emotions, as I'm sure that you do as well, and all of us in this room do too, I can see people and I'm like, I feel like I should be doing that as well. I love the fact that they're doing it, but it makes me feel like I'm not in a position that I should be in, or I would like to be in. However, I also understand that there's conflicting beliefs, that I'm in the position I deserve to be in because of the actions that I've taken so far. Meaning that I need to do said actions to get to exactly where I want to be. So I have to come off sometimes. But that is something that I can control, and I can control where I put my energy into.
Yes.
I'd rather put my energy into doing my own thing and advancing there and celebrating other people instead of watching other people on a regular basis. And I feel like that is something that people fall into so much.
Yes.
And in terms of, making sure that you're giving your energy to the right thing, what is it that you do to make sure you're giving your energy to the right thing?
So yes, I do. Similar to you, I pay attention to what's worked. And of course, I'm older now, so I know the things that work. Seasons in life change things as well.
Yeah.
So becoming a mother, I'm 45 and I have a 4-year-old. So
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Okay.
But it was a big change for me.
Yeah.
I've spent my entire adult life just grinding, never needing sleep, working towards my goals and loving it. There was never a time that I was mad that I was working so much or getting up in the middle of the night. It just fed me more energy, and I loved what I did and what I was able to accomplish.
Was this before you had your daughter?
Yes, my daughter.
Was it before you had your daughter that you were doing this, or even still when you...
Yeah, so I was working, and I would really sleep about 3.5, 4 hours a night, not all at one time.
Wow.
And I didn't mind. There was a joke with me running JV Zoo to our users who are worldwide that I never slept because they were like, if they would message the support desk or the help desk in the middle of the night, sometimes they'd get me because I like to pop in and check everything and make sure things are working. And so I'd be like, hey, it's Laura. And they'd be like, wait, isn't it 3:45 in the US? And I'm like, yeah, you know, so, but then I decided that I was going to have a child and suddenly I needed sleep. And my body was like, okay, we're going to grow a human. You're going to have to sleep 8 hours to actually do this. It's going to require a different level of energy, which was fine. And I was like, whoa, what's this sleep thing? I've never had it in my life. And this is cool. And I enjoyed it. But then even worse is that I have a baby. I'm now 41 and I've lived my whole life without needing sleep. And now I can't sleep and my body wants sleep. And I've got an infant. Oh, as I hit the microphone, sorry. But I've got an infant and I've got work because, let me tell you, this is something I would never tell anyone else to do. I took off 2 days and a weekend for a very difficult childbirth and then went right back to work. And I actually, the 2 days I took off, I'm only calling that I took them off because I didn't take my laptop into the delivery room, but I worked on my phone until I could no longer make sense of things in my head.
Wow.
Yes.
How are you?
I actually told clients that didn't know that I was pregnant, like, listen, I just need to get off the phone right now. I've got to give birth, but I'll be back in a few hours. Yeah.
Laura.
Because I loved it. I loved it so much and I wanted to deliver. And like in hindsight, I would never recommend that. Don't do what I did there. But then I was tired and my body had to recover and I had an infant that needed me to live and I had always been available. Yeah. I had always been available and I had set everything up to run without me.
As in available to who? Available to the people in your company?
Yeah. I mean, I had 6 million customers and...
It's a lot of customers.
At the time, I'm trying to think, maybe 800,000 active users on my platform.
And just for a quick explainer in terms of what JV Zoo is.
Yeah, so we're an affiliate network and an online marketplace. Right. We have over 1 million active affiliates now, worldwide, customers worldwide. Yeah.
And you were active for all of these people.
Yes.
But were you active for yourself? Were you there present for yourself?
Well, I had to, for the first time, say, whoa, I actually require more than I've ever needed. And it was hard for me to recognize then because I had never I always got up ran at sunrise. I had a routine that worked.
So you were getting up early, you were running and doing all of that as well?
Yes, I was very active, physically active. I would also work out with my team in the office later in the afternoon because I pay my team to work out. So,
ooh, I like that.
Yeah. So
you pay your team to work out?
Yeah. It's good for them.
We spoke about this in Mexico.
Yeah.
We spoke about it briefly. And I was even thinking from then, I want to get you on a podcast, but I just didn't know how it would look.
Yeah.
I guess this is how it would look, right?
That's how it looks.
Yeah. Sorry, okay, we can go into that, but I wanted to talk about something different.
I just had endless energy.
Yeah.
And then my body was massively recovering. And then, having a newborn that required me and required my body as well. It was just different. So I had to stop and relook at things and say, what do I need now? And how do I do this? And how do I keep doing everything I've been doing? And the first thing was trust everything I'd put in place, which was beautiful. I had a team in place. I had everyone that was ready to pick up the ball and run.
So you already had the systems in place and the people in place that you didn't really have to be there present for all of the customers.
Yeah.
But you were still present for all of the customers.
Well, yeah, it's also what made me great and still does make me great. I am the CEO and now an owner of JV Zoo, but I still go into support.
Congratulations, by the way. I don't think I said it on this tape. So everyone give a round of applause again. Yes,
Thank you.
Well done.
Yeah, I think that's what makes the company great is that there's no job beneath me. I know what's happening in every department because I'm there. Yeah. I want to jump into the support desk and see what tickets got rated poorly and then reach out to the customer and find out. I want to go onto the review sites and read the bad review and then reach out and say, hey, I'm the CEO. I just read this. What happened? Talk me through it so I can try to fix it for you. And sometimes I can't fix it. Yeah. Sometimes it is our business model doesn't support the need that you want. And I can't change our business model for one customer.
Absolutely, yeah.
But most of the time, it's a misunderstanding and I can fix it. And then I see where the breakdown was in my own company so we can talk about it, find the best fix.
Tweak it, yeah.
Yeah, that's what makes us great.
And I guess the word I was thinking is excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent, and actual like displaying excellence is what you're doing.
Thank you.
Because even with the smallest concern, you're trying to help.
Yes.
Right. And one thing I wanted to speak about today, which kind of ties into this, is being a lady in leadership in a very much male-dominated space, which we spoke about briefly in Mexico too.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you need to do this because of the fact that you're a lady, or do you just do this just to do this?
I know who I am, so I do this for who I am.
Good.
And I do this for the company that I want to build. Now, do I think that in the back of my mind, I worked through labor and giving birth the way I did because I was worried? I was worried that I would be perceived as weak, that I hid even choosing to have a child from my users. Yeah, I do. I mean, I serve a company, I work for a company that serves users around the world. You know, I still get messages that degrade me every day because of the culture, because of the way that person's culture views me as a female. And I think that I would have lost everything that I thought that I would have lost everything that I had worked so hard to show those users. But I realized too, I can't change cultures with just the way I live. And the only thing that I can do, the biggest change I'll leave on this world is my daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If other people similar to yourself, other ladies, they want to follow in your footsteps, what advice would you give them?
Well, I think if you're climbing the corporate ladder or you're trying to build your own, you have to be very clear on who you are and what it is you're building. And then you have to understand that not everyone is going to support you. And many of them, you can say, that's okay, you're not my customer. But then others, you can't. They will be your customer, and they'll be a great customer. You won't agree on everything. That's okay. You don't need to try to change them. You don't need to try to put effort into it. You just need to stick true to the values of your company and deliver on those.
With the ladies, because this is something that I wanted to speak to you about, as I said, since Mexico. How do they handle those men in the industry who are becoming a barrier to their success? And I say barrier because of the story that you shared on stage.
Yes.
Actually, you know what would be helpful is if you share the story now.
Sure. So my first executive position in New York City, the owner of my company stopped my direct deposit, and he scheduled a meeting in a restaurant and a hotel and asked me for a sexual favor in exchange for my paycheck. And of course, me being who I am in the world, I threw my water in his face and stormed out like I was on top of the world, and then instantly was deflated because I was unemployed from my first executive position. And I think it's knowing your lines in life, right? You know your lines in life of where you can no longer bend to appease other people. And that was a hard line for me. Could I have handled it differently? Yes. Had it happened when I was older, probably would have handled it differently. Do I regret it? No, it's a great story now to tell people. But I think that it's really important to know, especially as a female climbing the corporate ladder, there are still too many people that don't value what we bring to the table, even though we know, and they know, that companies with female executives have higher revenue.
Hold on, okay. You say that they know and we know. I didn't know this.
Well, they do.
Thank you for letting me know. So you said they have companies with female executives have higher revenue. Interesting.
Yeah, they perform better.
I mean, now, if you didn't know, now you know, right?
Now you know. And it's just wild to me that people still question a gender's worth.
Yeah. Yes.
That being said, I think that we can still do anything. We can get in any position, and in the executive suites, we can build our own companies. I mean, I'm proof of that. But we also, there's some people that we have to just say a polite no to, or when we're interrupted, because so many times I've been in board meetings or just meetings in general, where someone far junior than me would say, I think what she's trying to say is, and I'll just say, if you'll let me finish, I'll say it.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to finish now.
Yeah.
Because respect is a two-way street, first of all. If you're going to interrupt me, I'm not going to be rude, but I am going to stop you now. And I think that it's hard for women because many times then we're seen as difficult. And I knew after I threw that glass of water in the owner of my company's face that it would spread quickly that I was difficult. It's why I stepped back. I stepped back and became a consultant. I left my first executive position and became a consultant.
And where in the story was this? Because we went from 3 years old and then wanted to become a Rockette, and you did become a Rockette. Where did this come into the story?
Look, I've changed my whole life through podcasting. I used to not have a network. I didn't have a business before. I used to work the job that I didn't necessarily like. People didn't know me as a speaker. I didn't have a personal brand, but my whole life has changed ever since we grew our first podcast, which was a top 5% most shared. We got millions of social impressions online and people coming up to me in public asking me, are you this person? I said, yes, I am. And it all came through a podcast. Now, if you want to do something similar and build your own podcast, then click on the link down below to book a call with myself or my team, and we can speak about getting you started with your own podcast. Whether you want us to handle it for you or you want me to teach you how to do it, we can do it both ways. Speak to you soon.
Yeah, so when I went to New York City to become a Rockette.
At
24.
24, okay.
Yeah, I became a Rockette at 25. I went to the city and I stood in front of Radio City Music Hall and I thought about how everyone says people come to this city of dreams to be a dancer or a singer or an actor or something, and yet they're waitressing.
Yeah.
Which is to pay the rent, right? And I thought, no problem. Whatever I do to pay the rent, I'm not going to lose sight of what I'm here for. So I stood in front of the music hall and I panned the area and I knew all the places I could see was where I was going to apply to work. So I would never lose sight of what I was there for.
Okay, so you went to, where was this? New York?
New York, to Radio City Music Hall.
It's similar to LA because there's a lot of people in LA like that as well. A lot of waiters, a lot of people that are doing jobs like that just so that they can make it because they're in the environment. So you chose to go out of your small city or your small village, essentially, with, what do you call it? One
stoplight town.
One stoplight town. You went out from your one stoplight town to go to the Big Apple, Big New York. My sister went there recently and she was saying it's like London on steroids, basically.
Yeah.
And you went out there to be in the environment of the place that you wanted to get into. And it took you about a year. And not only did you do that and get into the environment, you literally got to across the street.
Yes.
From where you wanted to be.
Yes. Because they only audition once a year. So I moved to get myself set up, acclimated before the audition. I had no doubts I would be a Rockette. None.
How did you have no doubts that you'd be a Rockette?
Because I've been working my whole life for it.
So basically, you've prepared yourself in such a way, and you consistently thought about it so much, and went to those classes which were outside of your village.
Yeah.
So that when you got to the time, you were over-prepared.
Yes, but let me throw in this little detour I had to take.
Okay.
So the Rockettes audition at one time a year. They may only do an audition in New York City, or they may say, hey, we're going to do auditions in New York, Chicago, and one other city, maybe LA.
Okay.
So they did that year. They said, we're going to do like 3 cities in this 2-week period.
Right.
And the first audition was in Dallas, Texas that year. So I said, okay, I'm flying to Dallas. Why wouldn't I go to every single audition? I want them to know me by the end of this. So I go to Dallas. And I learn when I walk up, I've been preparing for this since I was 3 years old, right? I'm 24. And I learn at the door that I don't make the height requirement. They changed the height that year. And when I'm told, I'm so sorry, it's half an inch taller, you're not tall enough. I'm like, no, I've been saying since I was 3 I was going to be a Rockette.
So you don't understand. This is
like, me. This is my lifelong dream. Yeah. Excuse me, I'm going to have to commit. And they said, no, you can't go in. And there was another Rockette that was there. You re-audition every year as a Rockette. But she knew me, and she knew me as a dancer. And she said, if Laura can't go in, I'm not going in either, which was a bold move on her part. Like, kudos to her.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, we'll let her in, but she'll be cut first round. So they wrote my height in red marker on the top of my resume and circled it.
How tall were you?
So the height requirement was 5'6", and I was 5'5" 3/4" at the time.
Ridiculous.
Yes. So anyway, I was cut first round, which was interesting because when you're watching in a dance audition, you know the keep pile, like these are all the good dancers they're still keeping, and here's the don't keep pile. So I watched the director go to put my resume in the keep pile after I danced, and they pointed to my height at the top. And she pulled it back and looked at it. She went back to the keep pile, and they pointed to my height at the top, and she threw my resume so that it actually fell off the table. It didn't even go in the don't keep pile because she was mad about it.
Oh, she was mad that she couldn't keep you in.
Yes, because they had, I guess, as an organization, decided to increase the height. So then, of course, I walked outside, thought, this is what I've said I was going to do. I've told everybody I've ever met since I was 3 years old, I'm going to be a Rockette. What am I going to do? Everyone's going to think I'm a failure.
And how did you feel at that point?
I walked outside and cried. I bawled my eyes out. I cried. I was like, what am I going to do? And then I thought, I'm going to be 5'6".
Sorry?
Yeah, I'm going to be 5'6", right? How are you going to be 5'6", Laura? Well,
Yes.
let me tell you, it did not take me long to find out that they make shoe lifts for people with height complexes.
Okay.
And now they measure you and just your stocking feet, your dance tights. So I cut those things, and I cut a hole in the bottom of my dance tights, and I worked them in, and at the next audition, I was 5'6", and I got hired.
Wow. Well, that's the persistence there.
Yeah, I think life's going to throw us curveballs. We're going to get detours in life. Now, listen, I didn't have a crazy, dream of that didn't make sense for me. I wasn't going to be a supermodel, right? I knew I was never going to be 6 feet tall. I knew, the lot in life God gave me. I'm pretty enough. I'm not Cindy Crawford. I'm not a supermodel. But I was going to be a Rockette, and 3/4 of an inch wasn't going to keep me from being one.
That's amazing.
And then fast forward to, I always dual resumed while I was in New York.
Yes, dual resume.
Yeah.
So what is, explain to the audience, what does that mean?
So I never was going to stop dancing and then open a dance studio.
Okay.
I knew that wasn't my lot in life.
Is that the usual path for people that are dancers, basically?
I think so. They perform and there are dancers that I danced with on the kick line that are still dancing in the kick line at Radio City to this day. And don't look a day over 30. I don't know how.
Fair enough.
And listen, I had to take ice baths after every show. It's not for me.
Wow.
Congratulations, ladies. You are real athletes.
And how long did you do that for? How long were you a dancer for?
So I was a professional dancer for 18 years.
18 years, okay.
The last 5 of my dance career was a Rockette.
I see. And that's when you were 25 to 30 and you were dual resumeing
Yes.
at the same time. I just made a thing,
Yeah.
resumeing. Yeah, you were doing that at the same time.
Yes.
What was the other side of that? Was that you climbing the corporate ladder?
Yes.
That
So-
is like Hannah Montana.
Yeah.
The best of both worlds. That's
Yes.
literally, I'm not sure if the best of both worlds, but it's definitely both worlds.
No, it was great because when I decided to stop dancing, I stepped into my first executive position. Now, that wasn't all it was cracked up to be.
Which was
the
that
story.
one. Okay.
But that's where we were. Yes.
And then what were you doing in those 5 years? Because you said you were dual resumeing.
Yeah.
So how far did you get up that corporate ladder?
I climbed the ladder fast. So every year I took 3 months off to dance with the Rockettes. And every year I came back to a promotion because they couldn't keep the performance of the teams going without me.
As in those 3 months that you left,
Yeah.
performance dropped.
Yes.
I see. So they realized your value when you weren't there.
Yes.
Do you think that aided you a lot?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But let me tell you how I won so fast.
Okay.
Because I think this is important for people who run companies or want to lead teams to know. So I got hired at a company that gave its managers a bonus when they hit their quotas.
Okay. Standard.
Yes. Now me, I like to read a contract. I like to know every way I can make an extra penny based off my contract. I'll tell you about that with the Rockettes later too, because I made the most money as a Rockette because I read my contract.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people don't read their contracts. So for me, if I get money because I refer an employee that stays past 90 days, you'll never have more people referred to you than by me.
Yeah.
I'm just like, if I'm going to be here and I'm going to be putting in my time, and we exchange time for money in this world, that's what we do.
Of course, yeah.
And in order for me to exchange my time, I'm going to maximize the money that I can get so that in my free time, I can do what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean what I want. If I want to fly here and to London from the US and I want to bring my family and my nanny with me, I'm going to do that. And everybody's going to fly business class with me because I can, because I've maximized every opportunity given to me. So I read my contract and I thought, oh, I can make a lot more money if I bonus every month. So how do I guarantee a bonus? The first thing I did was pull everybody in my team together. And I said, hey guys, do you know what happens if we hit our quota, and they all said, yeah, you bonus. I said, yeah, what happens for you? And it was crickets, dead silence, nothing. Nothing happened to the team that would help me win. So I said, that stops here.
Come on.
If we win, I split my bonus with you.
I still like that.
We won every month.
Of course.
Because everybody that helped me win knew that I was going to take care of my team.
Is that something that you carry with you into your continued businesses?
Yes, I told you, I pay my people to work out.
Yeah.
Because when they are healthy, they are better employees. When they work out, they release endorphins. It makes them happy. When they work out, they become more creative. And they have solutions. And the thing they've been grinding on behind their computer all day suddenly has clarity after 45 minutes of moving their bodies. That's the problem, is people don't want to create winning cycles. People want to take, and I want to receive. But in order to receive, I have to help everybody around me win. And it's so easy if we look at it that way.
What does a winning cycle look like?
So a winning cycle is when you just keep hitting wins, right?
Okay.
So a win needs momentum. So you hit the next one and the next one. But when you set yourself up for success, which is what I did, I won every month with that company. It was a winning cycle. No one could stop me from winning. Why? Because no one else had a team behind them. I had a team behind me. We would get a new executive in that company, because I was not an executive then. I started as a fitness manager. I became the general manager. I became a district manager. I became a regional manager. Okay. Every single time I came back, until the point where I would go to the executive offices and they would lay out the P&Ls in front of me.
Yeah.
And they would say, these are our underperforming locations. How many can you turn around before you have to leave this year, before the end of the year? And I would say, I can probably correct 4. And they would say, you can make 4 locations turn a profit? And I'd be like, yeah.
Yeah.
So I would pick the 4 and I would take it. And then the executives would come to my location a month in and they would say, no one on your team will tell us anything about you. They're like your protectors. They're like protecting you. And I was like, yeah, because I know I've got their backs.
How do you form that type of culture? And how do you form that type of trust with your team?
So the first thing I would do then is, because it was physical locations and people were working, is I would do like way before Undercover Boss. And these were all gyms in New York City. So I would go in to work out. They didn't know who I was. And I would work out for a week.
In your own gyms?
Yeah, they didn't know I was a boss.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the next thing I would do is I would have the vice president of operations email them and tell them for that location there was a mandatory meeting that everybody had to be a part of. And this is the harsh thing that I did. I would put everyone in a room and I would separate the room in half and I would tell people what side, based off their name on a list, to go to. And then I would say, if you're on the side closest to the door, raise your hand. And when they would raise their hand, I would say, today was your last day. Please exit through the door. You no longer work here.
Because of what you saw when you went
Because of what I saw. And then everybody in the room would be really nervous that was left. And I would say, hey, what you didn't realize is you guys were the only ones doing the work. So I just took all of their salaries, all of their hourly income. It just got divided evenly. You all got a raise. We don't need that many people to run this location. You guys are already doing it. So people that hadn't had a significant raise in years instantly got a raise. So I already built loyalty that day by the people that were doing the work. I was like, that dead weight's gone, right? And then I would look, and if we still needed to hire a few people, we could, but most of the time we didn't. Most of the time, truly, those people were running the location while other people just clocked in and clocked out. So that earned me a lot of loyalty then. And then I met with everyone. And I stopped a lot of things too. There was a lot of theft going on, and there was theft going on because employees felt disrespected. And so I would say, what do you need? What are you taking this for? Who is it going to? Like, I remember one time someone stole like 500 toothbrushes, and I was like, what? You can't use 500 toothbrushes in your entire life. Like, what, are you selling them? What are you doing? And they told me they were sending them back home. And I said, okay, well, ask me from now on.
Yeah.
Ask me. I'll give you toothbrushes.
So you really, basically, it sounds like you just incentivize people.
Yes, and I said, don't degrade yourself to theft. Talk to me.
You're incentivizing, you communicate. So you're incentivizing them with what they actually want.
Yes.
So, of course, people want to raise, people want to be respected.
Yes.
And people want to provide for the people back home, as you said. And you're just giving them that. But
and to this day, by the way, let me just tell you, to this day, I can walk into one of my locations I used to run, and the people that are still there will tell the person that's running it now, I'm sorry, my real boss is here.
That's crazy. How did that make you feel?
It makes me feel great because I also know they're changing those locations still. Like anytime someone comes in, they're retraining that new boss. Yeah. They're like, no, we're a team here. You don't get to come and disrupt our team.
And is that something that you, I know that it's something that you carried into that JV Zoo and Vida Street as well.
Yeah.
I'm not too clued up about how Vida Street works because I know about JV Zoo, but how do you run Vida Street? Because you're doing both of those things at the same time whilst being a mom, whilst doing other things as well. So how does Vida Street look?
Yes.
And how do you handle that with everything else that you've got going on?
So Vida Street is a boutique ad agency that I own with Simon Harris.
Okay.
And honestly, it's about picking the right business partners. Simon is a wizard with ads. He's the same way the people that do under him. He respects his teams. So he's very easy for me to work with because we have the same type of philosophy. And then the team that we built is a family. It's really, we can rely on everybody to do the things they do.
Nice.
And really, with working with Simon will just bring me a problem, or I'll see that he's getting frustrated and I'll say, what's going on? We talk through it and I give it, I'm like, okay, we're spending time on this. This doesn't matter. We're not putting enough time in here. Let's put the time here. This brings us money to keep the team, that kind of thing.
And how do you balance all of this? Because I was just literally about 4 or 5 hours ago, I was with this guy, I was at a fireside chat, this guy called Theo Petitis.
Yeah.
And he was a dragon on Dragon's Den, so you know how you have Shark Tank. And he was
I'm
a
familiar
dragon.
with Dragon's Den. Yeah.
Perfect. So Theo used to be on it, I think maybe a few years ago or so. And the floor was open for questions, right? Because they were speaking about, it was at this guy called, I think it's Gary Gibbs. Shout out to Gary. He does like smart homes and such.
Yeah.
And I believe he done the smart stuff for Theo Petitis' yacht. So they came and they did a fireside chat. Floor was open for questions. And then I asked, because I think it's very important to always ask a question when the floor gets open, because then people know who you are.
Yeah.
And they know that, and people actually tend to gravitate towards you. Oh, you're the podcast guy.
That's right.
Oh, you're the guy that does that. Oh, you're the person that da-da-da-da-da. So I asked a question about how to balance what I'm doing. Or should I be focusing on one thing, or should I be splitting my focus in multiple directions? Because currently, I run a podcast agency, as you might have seen on my LinkedIn, as I post all the time. And I'm running this podcast, I guess. And I also speak. I do public speaking. So since Mexico, I've spoken at Penguin, Deloitte, myself and Robbie spoke at Deloitte. Also, I think I spoke at a couple other events as well. And we've just been doing a lot of speaking.
Great.
So there's multiple things that I'm doing similar to yourself. But a lot of people tell me to focus on one thing. I get that a lot. Focus on one thing, jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
But the full thing is jack of all trades, master of none is better than a master of one. People didn't know that. And then when I asked him, what should I be doing? Should I be focusing on one thing, or should I be like, where I think I work best, which is like, the 3 things that I'm working on? And he said, well, everybody's different, Jonathan. Everybody is different. And some people work really well when it comes to focusing on one thing.
Yes.
And some people work really well when it comes to focusing on multiple things. And he runs multiple businesses, from small to large size businesses. And I really appreciate that advice from him. But how is it that you balance what you do? Because I think, it's great to focus on multiple things, but how do you do that? Because me, the way I look at it is like a flywheel. All of the things that I do, they all add into each other. And I give a momentum. But is that similar to yourself, or do you look at it a different way?
Well, okay, as you were just describing it, everything you were saying, I'm like, well, you're speaking. Yeah. This all makes perfect sense. Everything's in alignment. So yeah, I agree. I think that makes a lot of sense. What I don't think makes sense is when people, like right now I have 2 very different companies. And I don't think you can start 2 things at one time from scratch.
Okay.
But I already had JV Zoo standing up before I started the next thing. And the same, the things were already working before I became a mother. Now, granted, children will come in life as well. So I think the biggest thing is knowing how much you can handle and if you're disciplined enough to keep handling it.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people that aren't disciplined in making sure that they're delivering. For me, the goals that I set are for myself, right? I don't break promises to myself. I deliver on my goals to myself because when you break promises to yourself, you're setting the standard for which you will deliver to everyone else. I know my worth. I'm going to deliver to myself.
That's good.
But also I'm showing my team that I am not going to say one thing and then not deliver on it. And then with being a mother, there is no option as far as I'm concerned for the person that I want to be. She's a child. She can't raise herself. And I have help. Don't get me wrong. I've got the village. I have a village of help. I have a nanny that sees her. She goes to school. She's very precocious. She's a bright child. She's, constantly learning and growing. But when she walks in the door at 3:30, I'm done with work.
Yeah.
So I have to be even more focused when I'm at work and say, these are the things I said I was going to do today. I've got to move the needle. These are my 3 things for this company, my 3 things for that company. I'm going to work out. I have to do that, or I'm not going to be the best and healthiest version of myself for all of these places I need to show up. So I get all those things done. I'm so disciplined.
Boundaried. Yeah.
And I say no to things that don't serve me or my goals.
How do you do that?
It's easy. No.
I know it's that easy. And this is the thing, like me, I started saying no to a lot more things.
Yes.
But it's not easy for myself to say no to a lot of things because I've been saying yes for so long.
Yes.
So like that. So now it's a thing of me saying, okay, how do I pivot to that no and make it easier for myself?
Because you've been saying yes for so long, so reframe it. If you want to say yes to your goals and yes to your dreams, then you say that in your mind, and then the word that comes out of your mouth to the person asking something that does not support those is no, because you just said yes first to what you promised yourself you were going to do.
But then if that doesn't align with it, it's a straight no.
Yes. If it doesn't support those goals, how are you going to reach those goals? How are you going to support the people that have gotten on board with your dreams?
Yeah, true, because it's bigger than you.
It's bigger than you, always.
And one thing about you, Laura, confidence.
Oh, yeah.
There is a lot of confidence. And it just like kind of, I don't know what the word is, but it just does this, comes out, right? That's a whole load of confidence. And people say that about myself too. And how I've seen confidence in my life and how I've built confidence in my life is similar to how I've seen your life been going, or you've built your life and built confidence in it. You keep proving to yourself that you can do what you say you're going to do, and you do what you say you're going to do, and you actually achieve and you hit your goals.
Yes.
The reason that I see a lot of people fall off of this confidence thing and they lack self-confidence and such is because they've lied to themselves so many times and they haven't held their promises true so many times that they don't even believe a word that comes out of their mouth, which is why they lack confidence. And one thing I see in you is you do not like that.
No, I
and
don't
I believe
lack
it's tied
confidence.
to those goals. I believe it's tied to those goals.
Yes.
So how do people start to hit those goals? And we've spoken about this. I even just looked over there. There's a gift I have for you. I'm going to have to give that to you at some point, but we're not there yet. How would you tell somebody, or how would you guide somebody in starting off their confidence journey? This isn't necessarily where I wanted to go with this, but I feel like it's the right direction.
Well, I think it is the right direction, and I believe so strongly in liking yourself and believing in your own abilities. I dedicated the entire first chapter of my book to it.
Okay.
It's a chapter.
What's your book called again?
Trust Your Increments.
Trust Your Increments. Available on?
Everywhere you buy books.
I love that. I thought you were going to say Amazon. Everywhere you buy books, right?
Yeah, what is it? Waterstone's here?
Yes, it is indeed. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. And we've got, where did I get this one from? Actually, I'm not going to shout them out because they are not paying me.
Oh.
Yes.
So, yeah, I believe that, first of all, the world is ripe for breaking down people, right? Everybody lives behind a computer, a phone, some device, and for some reason, that makes people feel bold and saying every nasty thought that comes to mind. And when people lack confidence, and when people don't know how wildly capable they are, because we all are, there's not one person that's not wildly capable.
Oof.
I believe that it's easy to believe the things that people can say to us that aren't true. And so I feel strongly that the world is ripe to destroy you. Do not do their work for them. You have to do the work in believing in yourself by, starting by delivering on promises to yourself. People can look at some of the things that I've said, like the name of my first chapter is I Like Myself. It's where my confidence comes from, but they can look at that, I like myself. Or they can look at that, I hit every goal I set for myself, and they can think, oh, this is too much confidence, a little arrogance. But it's not. It is because I do what I say I'm going to do that I know I can trust myself.
Yeah.
It is because I demonstrate that to my teams that they know they can trust me. It is because if I give my word is something I stand behind.
Yeah.
And that's why my teams would always defend me to no end. That's why my teams were like gatekeepers to me, because they're like, that's Laura, she protects us, we're going to protect her. And I think that truly, you just build this cycle of the way you treat yourself, and then you know that the way anyone else treats you that's not equivalent to that, you're either going to help them get there or you're going to see your way away from them.
I love that. I keep thinking, as within, so without, and as above, so below. And your internal world is a reflection of your external world, and the same thing, right? The same thing in both ways. And I feel like your internal world, you look after yourself. So in your external world, you look after other people, and people feel like you look after them too.
Yes.
Because it's literally just a reflection of your inside, right? And that confidence that you have in yourself is reflected in the confidence other people have in you.
Yes.
And I love that. And one more thing as well, you said that everybody is capable.
Yes.
And that is one thing I started smiling. The camera probably got that. I started smiling heavily because that is literally what Vitamin U is about. Everybody is capable. There is something within you, your unique blend of gifts, skills, and your character. And that is what differentiates you. And you unlocking that is what makes you stand out in the workplace and in the market and such. And I think you saying that kind of brought me back here, because a lot of people don't think that they're capable.
Yes.
A lot of people don't trust themselves. A lot of people do lack that self-confidence, and they don't lack their self-confidence. They haven't accessed their self-confidence because it's there. You think about it, as a child, when you were younger, like I'm sure you've seen with your daughters. What's your daughter's name, by the way?
Dagny.
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 What a lovely name.
Thank you.
Dagny. You must have seen this with Dagny as well when she was younger. She must have been quite confident. Probably still is quite confident.
She's wildly confident.
Like mother, like daughter, right? So when you're a child, you're super confident. You go up to other children, can I play with you? Here's my toy, or maybe they might take the toy away. I don't know if they've been watching. What's that? I don't know what show it is, but there's some show that apparently is not good for kids. Like, it teaches kids to act. I think it's Peppa Pig. Have you got Peppa Pig over there?
She's not allowed to watch many children's shows. Many children's shows teach so many horrible things to children.
It's a shame.
And the language. And I realized because she was watching it was a Disney themed, it wasn't Disney sponsored or supported, but it was like a Disney themed Elsa. She's obsessed with Elsa.
Okay.
And she was watching something on YouTube, and now we've had to take away YouTube because even though it was made for children, she started saying right afterwards, I hate this, and I was like, whoa, no, what? And it took me a minute to figure out what show it came from. Then I was like, no.
The source,
Yes, because why is my 4-year-old saying I hate anything?
And this is the thing, the world teaches you this stuff.
Yes.
The world teaches you this stuff, but when you were born and when you come out, when you come into this world and you're young and you're just starting to live life, you have that self-confidence. You have dreams. You have 3-year-old you had that dream, right? But then the world just comes in. I can't remember what you said earlier, but I loved it. You said something about how the world is just designed to kind of like dim your light.
Yeah, they want to tear you down.
They want to tear you down, unfortunately. And that's the way that the world has been built, unfortunately. But how do we overcome that?
So we naturally know how. We just like how we learn these things, like my daughter learned I hate from something, we learn to not trust in ourselves. My TEDx talk is about reframing failure. And my daughter, I was watching her keep trying to do cartwheels. She's every parent knows, watch this, watch me. Oh my gosh, do we ever. But she wants everyone to see her cartwheel. Now she's got a great cartwheel, but when I did the TEDx talk, she didn't. And she showed everybody her cartwheel that was nothing close to a cartwheel, but she didn't know that.
Yeah, just like a wheel.
Yeah, she just believed that she was doing this great cartwheel, and she just kept doing it over and over again.
And did you encourage her when she was doing that as well?
Yes, every time. And that's the thing, though, is that she was doing the work that was going to get her to the perfect cartwheel while she was telling everybody, watch me, watch me. And I thought, just the same way children learn to walk and they just keep falling down, we know this innately. We let the world take it from us. We have to stop allowing that and realize that as adults, you probably have allowed it and take back your power. We're not meant to all be alike. We are given a unique gift.
Yes.
And it's hard to find that sometimes, but the only way we find it is by keep trying, failing, trying. Failure is part of the process. It's actually a beautiful part of the process. And the fact that we fear it. In my TEDx talk, I talked about how an overwhelming amount of people, I think it's 46% of people in the United Kingdom won't even take on a new hobby because they are afraid of failing at a hobby.
What?
A hobby. Think about that. Think about how much that controls your life and the choices you make. And how much you would do in life if you just stopped being afraid of failing. And I want to tell you one more thing too, because you were saying this about my daughter and her confidence. I think it's my job, right, to make sure that she has the roots in life.
Yeah.
That she is willing to keep trying and failing and knowing her roots are strong. So ever since before she could talk, every day when she'd be in the car with me, I would say, baby girl, let's talk about who loves you. And I would list,
That's good.
Mommy loves you,
Yeah.
Gigi loves you, Granddaddy loves you. I list everybody that loves her.
Yeah.
Until she started talking and I would say, who loves you, baby girl? And she would start listing people out. And then one day, on the way to school, she wasn't even 2. I said, baby girl, who loves you? She says, Dagny loves me. Dagny's her name.
Yes,
She said
yeah.
it first. And I was like, that's right, baby girl. You will always be your own biggest cheerleader in life. Because we have to love ourselves first.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I love that. I think that is a very good place. It's not a good place because I wanted to continue talking, but it's a decent place to end up. Maybe when you're back in London, you do a part 2. But this has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me on Vitamin U. I've really enjoyed it. I think the audience has got a lot from this because I've got a lot from this personally. And I even see heads nodding as well, even though it's dark behind there, meaning that the actual live audience, give me a round of applause. Yeah, a round of applause, right.
Thank you all.
You got a round of applause and a whoop. Yeah, not everyone gets a whoop, so you got a whoop, which is good. So thank you so much for joining us, Laura. And literally, I have a gift for you.
Yes.
Which I gave to you at the end of the podcast for some reason, but I love books.
Yeah.
That's why I literally got one of these. But this is one of my favorite books. It's Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, I believe. And it's the story of Nike. And I, as you can probably tell, I like Nike. And it's one of the best entrepreneur stories I've ever read. And I think you're going to like it as well. Maybe it's for the flight back.
I have been told many times I should read this, so thank you.
You're welcome very much. And everybody, I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Vitamin U, because I definitely enjoyed it. And my name is, and will still be after this episode, Jonathan Reed, and you have been tuning to Vitamin U. See you later.